All right, everybody. Apologies for the delay, but we're here. We're back. Thank you all for tuning in once again on a Friday. We have two guests today instead of the usual. Well, I guess including me, we have three instead of the usual four. So we're joined by Darren and Ben. If you guys want to introduce yourself again for any new viewers.
Yeah, I'm Ben, Zardy Ben. I'm the brand experience manager for Nighthawk Pro Gaming, and uh, I wasn't here last week, so it's great to be back here this week to talk to you guys about all your questions on networking and connectivity. But I'll turn it over to Darren.
I'm Darren. I'm a tech support specialist and community moderator, and here to try to help answer anything I can on the spot. If not, we'll try to research it and get you the best answer we can.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So we started a little late. Apologies, guys. We had to kind of redo the overlay for the three of us. Um, but in the meantime, you guys asked a bunch of questions, so we can actually just jump right into questions, which is awesome. Let's see. The first question. Well, Brendan's got a bunch of questions, which is awesome. Happy to answer all your questions, Brendan. But the first question is, um, he has a R8000X6. It has two Wi-Fi radios, and it's theoretically able to manage 32 devices per channel. Curious how many wired Ethernet devices it supports at the same time using a switch. Well, I mean, theoretically, you could plug any amount of switches into it, and it'll still work. It's just a matter of, well, I don't even know how I would want to answer that. If you go over a certain threshold, then you'll start seeing some slowdowns just because you're branching off into so many different hardwired devices. I would say that um, you know upwards of maybe 20, 30 would be fine. What do you guys think for hardwired devices to an X6?
Yeah, at a certain point, you'll start degrading your speed and your whole network. The more and more devices you add, it also depends on how much internet speed you have. If
Mhm.
they're just
That's a good
gonna
point.
bring down the network. I mean, theoretically, you could have like 200 and something wired connections, but it may not perform the best.
Hmm.
Yeah, I also think that like it's really dependent on your internet speed, distance to those devices, however far, are you daisy chaining all those switches?
Hmm.
There's a lot of factors there. Um, but the average person is probably not going to hook 200 devices wired to a router. I mean, unless you're like, I guess, MythBusters, to
Yeah.
check out whether or not that it's true or not. Um, but I would say in reasonable, a reasonable household with a lot of Internet of Things and Internet of devices, you're probably looking at like maybe 4 or 5 devices per person in the house. Safe to say a family of four has probably got like 20 to 30 devices. However you manage that through wired or wireless, you should be covered by most routers and a switch.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say just to kind of, because your follow-up question is, I think you're trying to figure out the capacity of your router overall. Your follow-up question was, hang on.
Uh-oh.
What was that?
I don't know.
Sorry if you guys just heard that echo. That kind of came out of nowhere. I'm muted on my side. But sorry, to get back to your question, um, you were asking, can you theoretically have 32 on the 2.4, 32 on the 5, and then 32 on the Ethernet? I would say that you should kind of default to the mindset that you can put more on Ethernet than you could put on wireless, and on the more you're going to be able to get on Ethernet, that frees up your wireless bands more. So I would say you should feel comfortable putting more on on your Ethernet, and then freeing up those bands more. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and real quick, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2.4, you can heavy load 2.4 more than you could 5, correct?
I don't know that you could load it more. It's just 2.4. It goes further. It still would be loaded the same as the 5 gigahertz.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So, looks like the next question is Discord question mark. M. We haven't gotten to it yet, but we know you want it, and we actually did talk about it. We did talk about setting up a Discord. We just haven't actually done it yet. So it's on the queue of things to do. So it's coming. Don't worry. We did discuss it. Just haven't done it yet. But thank you for reminding us. We're gonna keep pushing for it.
Is this something from last week where I missed out?
Yeah, M-Dog really wants us to make a Discord because he wants to join the community on Discord.
So for Nighthawk Pro Gaming, that is something that we've been talking about for a while. We would love, and it's one of my priorities to try to get done in the relative soonish time period, in the next quarter or so. We would love to have a community over on Discord where you can join us for Q&As or updates, and also a lot of us game, so you could hop on and game with the team, and just have that sort of community. So we have been looking at it, and it's great that I feel bad that I wasn't here last week, but if it's great that people are asking for it, because it's something that we have considered for a while. It's just a matter of us to I think doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We it's something that we can't just make one and then oops, looks like we got Michael actually joining in now. So I can switch over
Can you hear me?
to yes.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I was having problems
cool.
with my video for some reason, but I'm in now.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Cool. Well, I can switch over to the 4-person view. Let me edit your name tag here so you're not Darren.
And for those that can't see at the moment, but Michael is joining us from low Earth orbit. So.
Yep. Sorry about getting in late. Just having a few computer problems, but they're all set now.
It's technology. That's that's the beauty of technology is, sometimes you have issues, sometimes you can shoot through it and work your way to a solution. That's kind of why we're here.
Okay, cool. So I added you in, Michael, so
there
you're all set. Cool stuff. All right, so
just teleported in. It's amazing. So
okay, so back to the question. We still have more coming in from Brendan. He put a whole queue of questions for us. So kind of on top of his question about his X6 router, he says he has an EX6. I'm sorry, 7000, and he wants to attach it as an access point. Will that give you a theoretical additional 32 devices over the R8000's 2 standard radio channels of 64 devices, which would be 32 per band? So the answer is yes, if you hardwire it. If you kind of have it as kind of a traditional access point where it's hardwired, kind of thinking with that business mentality, like a small business setup where you have your access points wired typically. If you hardwire it, yes, you'll have I believe the EX7000 is a dual band, so you'll actually get an additional 2 bands and have a theoretical 64 band addition to your network. However, if you have it wirelessly connected to your router, the extender, it's going to be kind of piggybacking off those 2 bands that are broadcasting from your router. Does that sound correct to you guys?
That's exactly right.
Cool.
Yep.
So definitely, if you want to really expand your network and have that additional those additional bands, you're going to want to hardwire it. So cool.
I'm super curious as to what house that Brandon has. I'm actually thinking that it's not a house. It's more of a business type setup, but that's a lot of devices. So theoretically, that would be, what, 128 devices that he'd be able to connect?
Yeah, wirelessly.
Yeah.
So there you go. And he's got even more. Brandon's here to learn, and that's what we're here to do, is teach you guys. So let's see. He turned off Smart Connect and forced Android to lock onto 5 gigahertz, and now I'm getting 5 gigahertz through 3 walls and a floor up. Amazing. Well, I'm glad.
That's great.
Typically 2.4 will broadcast further, but you'll get better speeds on 5. So whatever works for you. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. And he also set up separate SSIDs for the 5 and the 2.4 channels, which is handy, as always. Yes. I actually like having my my channels separate.
Cool.
And then setting up lower priority stuff to the 2.4.
Okay, what are the pros and cons of setting up a NETGEAR router in AP mode? So it's not really a pro and con answer. I would more so say that's a use case answer. So what an access point is basically, it's kind of in the name. It's just, I feel like I'm gonna have a hard time answering this, so guys, feel free to jump in. But it's basically just a point at which you're gonna have your network broadcast from, right? So a router, in a sense, is an access point, but a router does more than just broadcast. It's taking the signal from the modem and converting it into something that can be broadcast. So if you put your router in access mode, it's gonna kind of piggyback off of another router and broadcast from that point. It's not going to be doing all the functions of a router in that sense of decoding and broadcasting. It's just going to be kind of piggyback off of what the other router is doing, and just kind of expand your network in that way.
Right. That's all an access point is for, is just to expand your Wi-Fi network.
Mhm.
And all of the actual really routing, IP address assignment, things like that is going to be done from the router. And the access point's just a dumb broadcasting unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, if you have a more powerful, let's say that your main router, it has like a dual core, 1 gigahertz processor, and your access point has a quad 1.7 processor, you probably want to switch those, so that way your more powerful router is actually doing all the routing and the thinking for your network, while the other one is just a rebroadcaster.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Michael?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So hopefully that answers your question. We have an interesting question here from Joseph. Tech is probably what is making people sick. Thoughts? I'll keep my answer short. That's I'd say that falls under the category of misinformation. It's not what's making people sick. And we'll leave it at that and move on. Question: when will you update the Nighthawk M1 battery issues? I'm personally not aware of ongoing M1 battery issues. Are you guys aware of that being a common problem?
Yeah, I'm definitely not. And I've been using M1s for our events for quite a few years and haven't had any issues with them.
Yeah, I would say that kind of something cool about the M1, which is what I would say is something that's being moved away from in the mobile industry, is it has a swappable battery. You can take the battery out. Most of our phones nowadays are fully sealed. You can't get in. But thankfully that has a swappable battery. So I would suggest maybe getting a new battery. I'm sure you can find a third-party one. I don't know if we sell them, just the batteries. But yeah, just look up the specs of the battery and just get a replacement one, and maybe even get a couple, because what's nice about them is, if you run through one, you can just swap out another one and you're still online. So
yeah, and just pull the model number off of the battery itself and do a search on it, and you should be able to find third-party companies that make them.
Totally. Yeah. Cool. We got some love from Kumar. It says keep these sessions every weekend. Thank you. Yeah, we want to keep doing them even after we're all back in the office. We're hoping to keep it going because we've gotten such awesome response from you guys for doing these. So yeah, we'll keep it going for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the amount of information, there's so much information with networking and connectivity that we could probably do these once a day and still not get everybody all the information that they need. So this has been really great for us to be able to communicate out to you guys because I'll be honest. Before I joined NETGEAR, I had a hard time differentiating between what I needed to set up as far as a modem, an extender, a mesh extender, a router. So we're really here to help you guys with that knowledge.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. We're gonna keep it going. So let's jump to the next question. We have somebody joining us from Williams Web Solutions in Corpus Christi, Texas. Cool. It's always cool to have enthusiasts and people in the industry join the stream. So if you have any hard questions, we can try to answer them. But you might be more qualified than us. You're doing the William Web Solutions. All right. Um, let's see. Thanks, guys. This is from Brendan again. Thanks, guys. He set up his R8000X6 on the ground floor and hardwired it to the EX7000 on the first floor. And there's also another EX7000 on the third floor, hardwired back to the R8000. Both EX700s, 7000s are in AP mode. You have the perfect setup. That's exactly what you should be doing. That's the perfect setup.
Exactly how it should be set up.
So good for you for getting that all done. Let's see,
Yeah.
you got Gabriel back in the chat. What's up, Gabriel? Welcome back.
Alec, I think you skipped a question from Nico.
Oh, did I miss
above
one?
Brendan's.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Let's see, got one from Nico. Recently set up the Nighthawk C7800 in my home and tried connecting it to the Nighthawk app on my phone, but it wouldn't connect. Am I doing something wrong? I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a modem that isn't currently supported. We're
Right.
probably working on getting that in support, but not every single model has been added in the Nighthawk app just yet.
Gotcha. I wasn't aware of that, so good catch there. Yeah, so you're gonna have to do it through the web portal to access the settings there. So routerlogin.net should get you to where you need to be. If you just type that into your URL bar, that'll get you to the portal. So and then hopefully we'll have that supported on the Nighthawk app soon. Cool. So we have a follow-up from Diane who joined us last week or maybe the week before. And she is replacing her router of 10 years old. Her router of 10 years with a new Wi-Fi 6 router per our suggestion, which is awesome. And she wants to know, do you have to use the password that comes on the router or can you make your own? So initially you will have to use the password that's on your router just to access it out of the box. But then from there, all of our Wi-Fi 6 routers are supported via the Nighthawk app. So you can go onto the Nighthawk app and change it to whatever you'd like.
Yeah. And, we try to make really memorable, passwords, of course.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
our passwords are hilarious.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could totally change it. You can change. I think almost all of our routers. You can either use the password that comes along with it, or with just a couple of simple adjustments, you can change that password to something that's a little bit easier to get on the first try.
Yeah, all of our routers allow you to go in and change the passwords. And the only reason why we have these passwords to start with is we wanted to make sure your networks were secure. So we gave you unique passwords for each router that goes out. Because some people forget to actually change their passwords. So at least this way it's unique and only you know it.
Right. And it's for us, it's about that security and safety. It's something that we took on ourselves, so we could have sent them all out with like password admin, which or admin password, as we all know is the least safe and least secure of all password setups out there.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, definitely not the most secure password. Password's the worst password. Okay, let's see. We had a question from Kumar. Please brief TFTP. I'm not sure I know what that is. TFTP. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah, actually, it's a transfer file protocol. Very bare bones basic command line protocol, and not many people use it anymore. But is he asking exactly what it's supposed to be used for?
I think maybe that's the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of a brief explanation.
Yeah, basically, it's just a very simple file protocol that allows you to transfer files from one location to another. And there's some interfaces people have made that can use that file transfer as well. But it's something that's been around pretty much since the DOS era and before. And it is just a simple way to transfer files easily. And an example is with Windows, if you're transferring a file between, say, one computer and another, and your computer's in the center, Windows is actually going to first copy it over to your machine, then push it over to the other one. And with TFTP, it's just a direct connection through. And you say, move copy file from point A to point B, and then there's nothing in between after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, doesn't it drops the connection after the
Yes.
packet's been sent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm learning
True
stuff.
file transfer protocol.
Interesting. Well, cool. Hopefully that answers your question, Kumar. Let's see. Got a little joke from Brendan here. My neighbors must be wondering why I have 9 SSID signals, all called Nighthawk 2.4. Well, you know, there's no law saying you can't, so do your thing, man. Let's see.
M Dog has a question. Is there anything Michael doesn't know about networks? We have picked his brain for. I don't think there is. I to be quite honest, you're like the Stig of networks.
I'm an encyclopedia.
There you go. Let's see. Looks like John here, who I believe was from the web company at Corpus. Yeah, from Corpus Christi, Texas. Says he has a NETGEAR Range Max. Next, let's see. He has. It's a very long
it's
product.
An old wireless. Yeah, it's a very old wireless router in, probably 10 years old at least. And he's saying that he's lost the charger. All he needs to do is, because we don't actually sell those chargers, and chances are trying to find one, you might find one on eBay, but otherwise you just need to get a multi-setting variable charger that allows you to set the voltage and the amperage, and the one that comes with combination ends, and find one that actually fits on your range max. Because as long as it's putting out 2.4 volts and 1 amp, shouldn't have a problem with it. But eBay's the other way to try to find a charger for it.
Yeah, it's a pretty common, power brick, 12 volt 1 amp. You should be able to just find it online. Cool.
Yeah, the key is just finding the one, the connector.
Exactly.
So, there's adapters. There's also those multiple connector. It may look ugly, but it'll work. I'm amazed at that range max is still working after probably.
Hey, those things were workhorses.
They are, and that's the cool thing. Like, we had a question earlier from Diane. She replaced a NETGEAR router that was 10 years old. It just goes to show the longevity of some of our products. The technology may change, but you're still going to get reliable to what it was when that product was made.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. All right, we have a follow-up from Kumar. What role does TFTP play in firmware recovery?
What TFTP is used for, as I mentioned, that you're just basically copying or moving a file from one place to another. And it's used during firmware recovery because for instance, on a router, if a router basically won't allow, if its firmware is crashed or broken, a lot of times you can actually telnet into the router, which is basically opening a port into your router to be able to talk to it. And then you use TFTP to actually copy a copy of the firmware that you've already downloaded and push it over into the router. So it's a way to try to force a firmware onto the router when the router itself is broken and you need to get a firmware recovery on it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go. It just seems like it's just a method of which to get the firmware back on your router.
Right. And it's a
Yeah.
it's a very low level protocol. It's basically as low level as you can get. It's you connect up, and then with TFTP, you're telling it, take this file, push it from here to here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and its security is in the fact that it is a low level, like ancient sort of protocol, because it just has the handshake and then it passes the file and then that's it. Then it drops.
Yep. And the nice thing is there are GUI interfaces to use TFTP, so you don't have to use command lines to be able to push the file around.
Got it. Cool. Well, there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. We had a question from Angel here. I had problems updating my firmware on my Nighthawk R7000 from the Nighthawk iOS app. What are some workarounds? I'm sorry that it didn't work on the Nighthawk iOS app. That's usually kind of what we default to suggesting. But an alternative would be to go onto routerlogin.net. So go to your browser and type in routerlogin.net just in the URL, and it'll redirect you to your kind of router settings portal. And there should be an option in there to update via that portal. So give that a shot, and you're welcome to even try it now if you'd like, and then come back and let us know if it worked, because we'll be here until 2 o'clock Pacific Standard, which is another hour and a half. So we'll be here to follow up with you. Let's see, got a question from Diane here. Has a PS3 hardwired to the router and is using Wi-Fi for her cell phone and laptop. If I update to the new router, should I keep hardwiring to the PS3? I'd say yeah. I think that in any case where you can hardwire, you're going to be freeing up your wireless bands. So yeah, I'd say hardwire anything that you can.
Yeah, and just to jump in on that, Darren will back me up on this. Hardwire your PlayStation 3, hardwire your PlayStation 4. We noticed that there's a Wi-Fi, I wouldn't say unreliability, but you may get a great Wi-Fi adapter in your PS4, or you may get a not so great Wi-Fi adapter in your PS4. And so I would always say on the safer side to wire your PlayStations in.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's such a common issue that we see popping up in the chat is PS4, PS3. So
yeah,
hardwire when you can. Totally. Okay, let's see. Mango has a USB plugged into the network, the Nighthawk X10, and it's not popping up on his or her network. You might have to reformat it. Is there a specific format that works best, like a storage format that works best for network attached storage?
Well, I recommend NTFS or FAT32 because that's pretty much universally seen. And also, once you plug it into the router, log into the admin screens and go into ReadyShare and see whether you can actually see it in ReadyShare, because that's how you should be accessing it anyway, is using ReadyShare to find it on your network.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, try those. I'd say make sure it's formatted and then do what Michael just mentioned, and that should make it pop up for you. And if you need to, any tutorials on how to reformat a USB, there should be a ton on like YouTube and stuff. So check those out. All right. Jordan Cooper has an R8000 and wants to know that if he gets a Wi-Fi 6 router, will he see a performance boost? I would default to saying yes, but I definitely want to err on the conservative side. It really depends on which Wi-Fi 6 router you get, and it really depends on your home situation. Do you have a bunch of devices? That's kind of the main draw of Wi-Fi 6 is capacity.
Yeah, are you actually seeing any slowdowns?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not actually having any problems with the R8000 and you're not seeing any slowdowns, then you probably won't see a difference because you're already getting the best out of your local network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. if you have a lot of devices and you're seeing congestion and slowdown, you will see a performance boost in the Wi-Fi 6 because it just has the greater capacity. But if you're not having any issues or any problems, you're probably not going to see any noticeable differences that you can, detect because it's already running, top speed as is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that should answer your question. Also, it depends, the R8000 is a pretty solid spec router, and if you get like an RAX 15, which is like our like very introductory level Wi-Fi 6 router, the hardware is not going to be quite as powerful as the R8000, but you're gonna have that Wi-Fi 6 technology. So it really just depends, what do you upgrade to, and how's your network currently performing? Okay, have a question from Charles here. I need to get more range from my router. He has an N900 for his house, which is 5,000 square feet. I have no luck using an extender. Would an AC 1900 be a big improvement, or do I need to go to an Orbi system? So if you have an N900, I've never even heard of that router. It must be pretty old.
It's a fairly old router.
Yeah, I would definitely say that no matter what extender you get for a home that is 5,000 square feet, it's probably not going to work very well with that router. It's old technology, and you're going to kind of be tying all of these extenders back to an older router. I would definitely suggest first upgrading your router, whether you want to, go into the Orbi systems or you want to go into the Nighthawk systems. That's up to you. But I would say a mesh for a 5,000 square foot home, I would say a mesh network would probably serve you best.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what definitely with 5,000 square feet. That's either Nighthawk mesh or an Orbi mesh. It just really depends on where you are budget wise and where you are as far as what you want out of that system.
Mm-hmm. We did a show.
Yeah, because that's a lot of square footage.
Yeah, totally. That's a mesh worthy home for sure. We did a show. I believe it was last week on the MK62, which is a great product to check out. And we'll be releasing an MK63 soon, which is going to be that same technology but a bigger package. You'll get 3 units instead of just 2. So for 5,000 square feet, I would say a 3-unit MK63 would serve you very well. We can have Angela drop that in the chat. So you can go with that, or you could go with an Orbi system. Lots of options. Definitely lots to look into. What is the highest capacity USB stick you could attach to the Ready Share USB port on a Nighthawk, or is there a highest? Don't believe there's a limit.
From a USB stick perspective, no, because you can actually plug in USB hard drives that have like 3-4 terabytes in size, and it's still going to be able to recognize it.
What about like my old job? I had it wasn't a NAS, but it was kind of similar. It was like a whole like rack of hard drives that just plugged in via Thunderbolt. Obviously, it doesn't have a Thunderbolt port, but what if you had like a converter?
If you have a converter, that probably would work, except if each one of those drives is seen as a separate volume, that might create a problem because the USB port is expecting a single drive to be plugged in.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go. What is the cheapest Wi-Fi 6 router that we have? The cheapest one that we have is the RAX 15. Yeah. That's kind of the whole answer. The RX 15. I could pull it up if you want to see it.
Yes.
Or Angela, you could also drop that in the chat as well. The spec is pretty low. Like it's not a very high performing router, but you're still going to get that Wi-Fi 6 technology. So, definitely worth looking into. Where are we now?
At Kumar asking whether it's okay to upgrade firmware files wirelessly. And the answer to that is it's highly frowned upon trying to do firmware upgrades wirelessly. Our routers are designed so that if a firmware happens to fail as you're upgrading, it should revert back to the current firmware. But doing wireless, it's really not a good idea because even the slightest hiccup can corrupt the file that's being transferred. So whenever possible, definitely do it wired, not wireless.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, so Brendan asks, is there any USB storage stick that I would recommend for a router? Well, I believe, let's see, I think he has the R8000. That should have USB 3.1 or 3.0 on it. So I would definitely suggest getting a USB 3 USB stick just to maximize that speed. If you use a USB 2.0, it's going to work, but you'll get slower speeds. So anything USB 3.0, you can pick whatever capacity you like. It's kind of up to you. But 3.0.
Yep, and definitely don't do a USB 1.1. You'll be there all day transferring files.
Yeah, that would not be good. Guys, just an update. This is the most viewed stream we've ever had. So to all the new viewers that are tuned in right now, thank you so much for coming. We hope we're sharing some new knowledge with you. And if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. So if you're new to the stream, the format is you just hop in, ask questions in the chat, and we'll help you out. So. But yeah, shout out to all the viewers. We really appreciate you guys being here. 37 viewers right now. So
yeah, that's incredible.
Cool. So question from Noble. The Doom OS dashboard only shows settings. It does not show the QoS and other things like that. So yeah,
that
Ben.
sounds like Darren, that sounds like the R apps aren't loading. Do you have like a quick solution for that?
I believe we had a workaround on the community. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'd have to go find it. Maybe I can give it to Angelo.
Yeah, because I know that there's a workaround on it. Sometimes there's a strange issue where the R apps aren't loading, and I think let's take a look for that because I'd rather do something a little bit beyond did you turn it on and off. Kind of a thing. But there is a workaround.
So I just got a message from Angelo. For the person that I suggested the MK62 and 63 to, I believe that was Charles. I mentioned that stream we did a couple weeks ago about the MK62, and we actually have a promotion running for that product. So if that's something that you want to look into, the 62 or the 63, if you want to buy, if you're looking to buy today, we have a code. It's MESHLIVE20. And I'll have Angela put that in the chat as well. It expires tomorrow, but it's going to get you 20% off the MK62 or the MK63. So if you're interested in buying soon and you want to save some money, that is a great way to get 20% off. So just wanted to give that as an offer. You buy whenever you're ready, but just want to give you a little heads up.
I found the answer here to the R apps not loading. So in the system information on the R app panel, change in the option the retries to 5 instead of 3, and then reboot the router and see if that gets the R apps loading again.
Yeah, cool. I just grabbed that as well. So awesome.
Yeah, I had that issue back in the office in the gaming room. We have a very high load XR700 in there that's powering the whole room, and sometimes the R apps won't load. And I've always just, whenever I've restarted it, it's been fine. So cool. We have a question from I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I feel bad butchering people's names. Efe. Hey, is the NETGEAR EAX80 good for a PS4 and for your home? Yes, I would say yes, it is. But that's kind of with a caveat. The EAX80 is a Wi-Fi 6 extender. And as we've kind of mentioned before, extenders are kind of only as strong as the router. It's going to be tied back to your router. And if you are not using a Wi-Fi 6 router, you're not going to be kind of getting the benefits of having a Wi-Fi 6 extender. So, I would suggest the EAX80 only if you have an AX router, a Wi-Fi 6 router. But if you do, it's really great for your home and for your PS4. You're going to get better capacity. And there's hardwire ports on the back. There's Ethernet ports on the back, so you could hardwire your PS4 directly into your extender. Cool. Follow-up question: can you recommend best cost solutions? You said the mesh network is MK63 available, and how much? So I believe Angelo linked the MK63 product page above. Charles. So if you scroll up, it's linked from our account from Netgear, and I mentioned that Mesh Live 20 code, which will get you 20% off. So I'm not sure. I could pull up. See, the MK63 from Netgear is. It is. I'm not sure off the top of my head the cost. Do you guys happen to know? I'm trying to find it here.
Let's see.
It is. Let's see. Buy now. Looks like it goes for. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. Let me just click this link from Angelo. I'm running around trying to find it. I'm not sure we're actually selling this yet on our site. It looks like you might just be able to buy it on Costco's. All right, let me see.
It might be a Costco exclusive.
I think that one is a Costco exclusive. Okay, so here's what I can tell you. This is my advice. If you want to save and you want to get the benefit from having that 20% off code, you can start with getting the MK62, which is a 2-pack. That is for sale on our site, and I'll have Angela link the MK62 as well. That's a 2-pack, so you're gonna have one router and one satellite. So you could purchase that, and you get the 20% off code if you use it today, and that is on our site, and it's already discounted, so you'll get an additional discount. See if that works, with just the two satellites. Or I'm sorry, the two units, so the one router and the one satellite. See if that works for your home. If it doesn't, we're currently working on launching just the satellite as an add-on. So then you could go in, you won't get that additional 20% off because the code's going to expire tomorrow, but you will have gotten the 20% off on the 2-pack, and then if it works, cool. If you need more, buy the satellite. That would be my suggestion. It's my sales pitch. Okay. And we're back to the questions.
I think Kumar had
I did have a follow-up on Kumar asking or mentioning about the firmware and the pop-up uploading wirelessly. If you're talking about the Netgear Genie telling you that your router needs a firmware upgrade and you launch it from the Genie, you're not actually upgrading it wirelessly. You're using your wireless connection from your client device and Genie to tell the router to upgrade, but your router is still going to be hardwired in when it's pulling down the firmware and doing the upgrade. There is sometimes when you do upgrade firmware wirelessly with the Orbi mesh system, that's a good example where the satellites are actually upgraded wirelessly. But we've coded the firmware upgrade between the router and the satellite in such a way that there's a lot of safeguards so corrupted firmware won't actually be implemented on the satellite. But using the Genie, that's just the admin screen telling the router to upgrade, but you're not actually downloading the router through or firmware through Genie and then pushing it to the router. The router's pulling it directly.
Gotcha. Michael's always got the full answer. He always knows the whole answer.
So you're saying I can talk a lot. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying you know
it's
everything in like a good way. you got all these shout outs in our chat today. Everybody's saying Michael's a genius. Yeah. So there you go. Cool. So where are we now? Okay, let's see. Brendan here has another question about ReadyShare. Using ReadyShare, can you download all your Android phone pictures, etc., to your X6 storage USB from your phone via Wi-Fi, or do you need access to a laptop or computer? Is there a ReadyShare? There is a ReadyCloud app, I believe, on Android. So you should be able to access. You should be able to access your attached storage, your NAS storage, via that app. I know it's on iPhone. I have it on my iPhone, and I used it for my NAS. So I'm assuming it's on Android as well. So the answer is yes, I think. So
LSG has a question about the Nighthawk XR500. Help me stop getting drop frame rates on Streamlabs OBS while streaming to Twitch. At the moment, I lag when playing on Xbox and streaming. I'm also using a wired connection. I have an Xbox X. I use Streamlabs OBS. Also both wired. Is your streaming, whatever you're streaming Streamlabs on, is that wired? That would be my first question. And then the second is what IP protocol are you using in connecting your Xbox? Are you using IPv4 or IPv6? The next one question would be what frame rate are you attempting on your Streamlabs, and how much bandwidth is coming in? God, there's a lot of questions there. So it basically want to kind of figure out if you're trying to push too much on your upload stream in Streamlabs. If you're trying to push like a 5,000 bit rate, you're going to end up with drop frames.
Yeah, and also is someone else using the internet in the home at the same time you're trying to stream. I mean, you might need maybe set up some QoS rules to limit the bandwidth to the rest of the devices in the home.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And also, is OBS prioritized in the device in application prioritization?
Yeah, lots to try out.
Yeah, if you can get us back a couple of those answers, we can help you out, try to narrow it. So we're gonna move on for a minute and let you answer those questions, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay, so question follow-up from FA, who asked about the EAX80. They have a Vodafone router. Can I connect an EAX80 to this router? And you could hardwire it and use it as an access point. However, I would urge you not to get the EAX80 in this case. Your Vodafone router is not Wi-Fi 6, I'm assuming, but I'm pretty confident in assuming that. Yeah,
absolutely confident.
So I would suggest, we at NETGEAR are all about advocating for owning your own equipment, right? So you're paying monthly for your Vodafone router, most likely, and you don't own it. If you ever switch providers, you're gonna have to give it back. I would suggest replacing your Vodafone router. And if you need an extender, I would probably make the same suggestion that I made to Charles. I would look at the MK62. I just replaced the whole system. It comes with an extender and it has a router. I'd say that's
big question is that Vodafone router a gateway as well? So if it's a gateway, you'll have to put it in pass-through. That's Michael, here. This may be on the edge of your knowledge, but how much do you know about UK modems and routers?
Very little.
Yeah. God, we get a lot of questions on UK tech, and I think that it'd be interesting to pull in somebody from our UK office on this. But with that Vodafone, it's questionable. I would say if you can, if Vodafone allows for compatible equipment, then I would definitely replace it. Mm-hmm. But if you're trapped with it as a gateway, then you're going to want to put it in pass-through and then have all the heavy lifting done with another router. But I wouldn't just connect the extender to it. I think that's what I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So we have a question from Surfing the Tube. This guy must be from a coastal area. Looking to purchase a new router. My internet plan is 200 megabytes per second, and they're looking at the Nighthawk X6S. Would this be okay? I was also looking at the AX12.
Yes, for
Um,
both of them.
yeah, those are both great routers. I'd probably lean Wi-Fi 6 just because it's a new protocol. Um, yeah, but I mean, 200 megabytes per second, they're both going to get you that, and they both have pretty good capacity.
They
So
both have gig WAN ports, so they can support up to gig connections. So yeah, both of them would easily handle 200.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, I would lean towards Wi-Fi 6 though, just me personally. But you could go with either, and they're both going to work just fine. Okay, let's see. Got some love from Dan. We've had Dan, Dan's been here for a while. He's tuned into a couple streams, and he got the RAX50 yesterday, and he says it's an awesome upgrade. Well, there you go. Glad it's working out for you, and let us know if you need any help optimizing it, customizing it. We're here to help out. Question from Robert C. Everyone seems to be focused on Wi-Fi. I'm more interested in achieving the best possible wired network with Wi-Fi compatibility for my phone and tablet. Currently using an antique, oh God, I don't even know what this is. WNDR.
DR4500.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is an antique.
Looking at a NETGEAR AC 1750 dual band smart Wi-Fi router, gigabit Ethernet. Yeah, I mean, that's something I've heard of, so it's probably an upgrade. I've never heard of that old one. What would you suggest this as being kind of a good router to hardwire out from, Michael?
It's fairly old. You can definitely hardwire out from it, depending on if he just wants to upgrade his router to get better, Wi-Fi speeds. Because the 4500 that might be a wireless in or a very early AC. I'd have to look it up, but it is a very old router.
Yeah, I think he's wanting to get the best possible wired connection. And so most of the routers that we have great wired connection.
Yep.
If you're already porting out to a 4-port and an 8-port switch, as long as you aren't doing, I guess, multi-gig, right?
Yep.
From those ports, everything is still kind of the standard is 1 gig ports. Gigabit ports, so everything should punch through. If you have a gigabit 4-port and a gigabit 8-port, you'll still get that gigabit connection all the way across your network. If you're looking at multi-gig ports, then now you're into something completely else, and then now that's something where I think we have a few routers that support multi-gig, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And then you have to have the other compatible devices that support multi-gig as well, like a multi-gig switch that it's connected to. Otherwise, you're still going to be limited to the gigabit speed.
Yes. So it's sort of an all or nothing. If you correct, Michael?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the only reason to really, if you're worrying about wired speeds, to upgrade from that router is if you're finding the router is being bogged down by too many devices being connected to it. And then that comes down to more of the processing power of the router, that you're starting to now outstrip the power that the router has, in which case upgrading to a newer router would help because you'll have more memory and more processing power, so you can handle more devices without getting bogged down. But it does depend on what issues you're running across now, if any.
Okay.
Cool.
Another shout out. Michael is a genius. So, let's see. I do really want to get back to LSG real quick. He streams from his PC, which is wired into his ISP router. My Xbox also wired. 720p. His bit rate is 3500. OBS runs as administrator, so it's prioritized as well. But I think his question was that he was looking at the XR500, and would the XR500 help with that? So let's see, at the moment, I don't think I control the bandwidth. Each device is, that's why he's looking at the XR500. Yes, you would be able to actually prioritize and control. Um, uh, you could split out the bandwidth. You can also reserve some bandwidth specifically for gaming. Um, I use it with my setup with both a PC that's prioritized running Streamlabs OBS and my Xbox. And I have a pretty stable stream. So I think that you would get the results that you're looking for.
Cool.
And 60, he's got 60 coming in, and upload is 18. Yeah, for you, it's critical to be able to have that control over which devices would be prioritized. Excuse me. But I would reserve some of that bandwidth, probably about 50% of that bandwidth for gaming. But yeah, you would definitely see an improvement.
Okay, cool. So we got a question from Brendan. Is ReadyShare free or free to use, or is it a subscription? It's free.
It is free.
Yeah. And then we have another XR question here for you, Ben, from Payne FN. Hello, I just got the XR300 today, and when I turn it on, it does. When I turn it on, the Ethernet light is orange, but it still works. I don't know why that is. Also, the geofilter is showing that the server is in California.
Where are you located? Because it could be very well that the server is in California. A lot of servers, depends on the game that you're playing.
Yep. And for the Ethernet light question, if he's not talking about the WAN light, but he's talking about one of the Ethernet port lights is orange, that normally indicates that it's seeing the connection as a 10/100 instead of a gigabit connection. Not that the port is stuck at that, it's the client that's connected to it. It's saying the only way we can communicate with that client is at a 10/100 speed, not gigabit speed. So if the device connected only supports a 10/100 connection, you're going to see orange on that light. Otherwise, it would be green if it says, yeah, it can do the full gigabit connection.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and yeah, it also on my 500, when the light's orange, it means that that device is not currently on.
Could be another potential reason why. Okay, let's see. I have a question from Jordan, who has an RN422. When I transfer photos from my phone using ReadyCloud wirelessly, some photos get cut off. I'm using the latest firmware and done all the troubleshooting. What might be causing this?
That's odd. When you say that it's being, the photos are being cut off, do you mean literally that part of the photo gets uploaded, and when you go and look at it, there's only half a photo there? Or is it the photos getting uploaded and then the upload stops, and so literally your transmission has stopped at that point?
Okay, we'll follow up with Jordan once he lets us know what the deal is with that. Let's see. Another question from Brendan, who has both the Nighthawk app. I have both the Nighthawk app that has Wi-Fi analytics built in, and also a separate Wi-Fi NETGEAR Wi-Fi analytics standalone app. Are there any differences between the two analytics functionality? I'm not sure. I'm assuming they're the same.
I'm assuming so. I haven't compared the two of them, so I'm not sure if there's any functionality difference, but you should be getting basically the same information from them.
No.
Okay, follow up from Surfing the Tube. Excuse me. Thanks for the info. Thought I'd have to be at gig speed to use either router, as they both are gig. Does my modem have to be gig speed too? So what I would suggest doing in this case is, if you go on our site and if you want me to, I'll pull it up. But and you go to the modem section, you can sort the modems by different speed capacity. Because at a certain point, you might be going overkill. If you have 200 megabytes per second, you don't need to get our top spec modem, which is, which can get you up to like, I don't know, like 1.6 gigabytes or something. You don't need to go that far. So you can sort by speed on there, and then pick the right one for you. What I would consider is, if you intend to upgrade in the future, consider that. If you want to buy, maybe one that's compatible for 500 megabytes per second, if you want to upgrade at some point, save yourself the trouble of having to get two. But if you're not going to, just go with the one that suits your needs as far as performance goes.
Yeah, and usually when you're talking about the modem and your connections, you're gonna be looking at one of two things. Is your ISP package, the speeds that you get from your ISP, lower than 100 or greater than 100? If they're lower than 100, then you don't really need a gigabit connection to the modem because it's not going to be any faster than what's going out to the internet. If it's greater than 100, then yeah, you want to make sure your modem does have a gigabit connection. Otherwise, you're going to be maxing out at 100 instead of going beyond that.
Gotcha. Okay, we have a follow-up from Robert, who had the issue with the Xbox One X. He says that gigabit is fine, but he's getting some serious dropouts streaming Xbox One X to the PC. Do you have any follow-up?
So I've been looking at Robert's situation, and so he has that really old router, and I think he's actually a perfect candidate for an XR500 because he's talking about gaming and streaming, and the Dumo OS is definitely going to prioritize with that. You're going to be able to prioritize both of those devices. I game and stream on a 500. Darren has a 700, which is a little bit more capable with a bigger processor, more ports. But I would definitely consider it because you have 4 ports out the back at gigabit, so you can plug that into your switches. But you would be able to prioritize not only OBS, but also your Xbox. And then going back on that question on Xbox, and this is one of the things that Xbox has actually told me, is that that with their protocol, if you're seeing dropouts on your Xbox, you might want to change the protocol on your modem and your router to IP version 6, because that will alleviate some of the headaches and problems with Xbox Live dropping out, especially if you're using chat. I know that's a long-winded answer, but there's a lot of. But I would definitely, Robert, if Angela, if you could drop the XR500 into the chat, it's definitely something to consider. M Dog in the chat will also, I think he's also a Doom OS user as well. It's fantastic. It really changes the way that you're going to play, because you're going to be able to prioritize that upstream, and that's critical for streaming.
And then I have one as well, and I run the streams every week from my home. Yeah. And if you're a streamer, I can't suggest a better router to you. I mean, 700 obviously, but I can't suggest a better family of routers. The XR series is great.
That Samir is asking about a Doom OS on an R7800. I would take a look at the 500. I think it's pretty similar in capabilities to the R7800. Is that correct, Michael?
Yes.
So the XR500 has, I think, really similar specs to the R7800 as far as hardware capabilities, but you're going to get that Doom OS on there, and I think. What are we running on the promotion right now on NETGEAR site? 1 second. I'll tell you. You can go directly to us, and I think it's like either I think it's 10% off.
I know you get 10% off
Does
for
that work?
signing up for email.
Yeah, so you can get 10% off of a Doom OS. Oh, you don't have one. Sorry, M Dog. Didn't mean to put words in your mouth. Uh, but that would be your. So you said you're willing to pay for it on an R7800. Doom OS, that XR500 is definitely going to be that fit if you're looking at that capabilities.
All right. So another question we have here is it a good idea to buy a Wi-Fi 6 router now, or should I wait for 6E routers for the 6 bands? Michael, you seem to have an opinion.
Well, yes, I do. The answer is no, don't wait. Wi-Fi 6 basically is just taking hold at this point, and as you see, there's still very few devices that are using Wi-Fi 6. It's going to take a long time before Wi-Fi 6E actually comes into use, and that's just using some, not just the 6 bands, but using some of the additional tweaks that 5G networks have. But at this point, you're probably not going to see anything with 6E for at least a couple of years to actually become mainstream. So I would say if you're looking for anything in the near future, go with Wi-Fi 6. And even when 6E comes out, you're not going to see enough of a difference in the devices you have.
And I would also caution on that, because when 6E is now announced and it comes out, there may be, between the time that 6E finally starts getting adopted, there may be another technology that will come and replace it. And so sometimes certain wireless protocols end up being sort of dead ends.
Like 11AD.
Yes.
Yeah. And, we're still working on making Wi-Fi 6 routers. It's not like we're just going to all of a sudden switch the entire, the whole NETGEAR operation to 6E. So it's still, a relevant Wi-Fi protocol no matter what. So I would
Yep.
I would go for Wi-Fi 6.
Well, as
Yep.
we've seen, when you have in routers still out there that people are using, so it'll be around for a long time.
Definitely.
I'm still surprised that people are using N routers, and a couple of Gs out there too.
And G too.
Okay, let's see. Brendan's got a follow-up question from a couple weeks
Yep.
back. Any news on a possible auto reboot option on the Nighthawk app, i.e. once every 30 days? Still haven't made that, update to it, but it's something that we mentioned it's something we're aware of customers wanting, so hopefully soon. But you can reboot remotely from the Nighthawk app if you'd like.
Yeah, also, if you're looking at doing a 30-day reboot on your router, since it's not actually built into the router right now, you can buy very cheap wall plugs that you can actually set schedules on, and just set a schedule on that thing that every so many days power off the device that's connected to it, then powered back on. And that's the same thing as doing a reboot.
I can't believe you just MacGyvered that. That's amazing.
Hey, that was easy. I do that all the time.
We used to have some of those for like fish tanks in my house. Turn off the filter.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. It turns it on, turns it off.
And I'll bet you can find one a little more expensive that connects up to Alexa. And then there you go. You can just talk to it.
Oh, there you go.
You could probably get one. I was looking for a remote controlled one. On Amazon, they sell ones where you can clap. So maybe you could do that, where when you clap, it reboots your router.
I love it.
Could be worth a shot, if you want to, impress your guests. Question from that Samir. Doom OS on the R7800. No, the Doom OS software is only on routers that begin with XR. So.
No, and I answered that earlier. I suggested the 500.
Yep.
Gotcha. So. Okay, I think we did we address the follow-up from Robert here? Downloads are not running at full speed. Okay, cool. And then we have a question from FA. What can I do for my internet with the Vodafone router? I think I need a repeater in my room. If you want to improve your internet on your Vodafone router, you could consider hardwiring a extender. You could do a power line adapter as well. If you want to run, you know, an access point to a different room, perhaps you could run essentially run a Ethernet connection through the power connection that's in your home already, kind of like in the walls, you know, via the power plug. That's kind of a whole explanation that we'd have to dive into, but it's worth looking into if you want to do some research on power line adapters. But I would definitely suggest just finding more ways to create more access
And
points.
yeah, and I would also go to Vodafone's service site, and there should be either a forum or a list of compatible products,
Mm-hmm.
and then that should get you a good start on if you know, because sometimes they do like to lock up with proprietary products, but there should be some sort of compatible product that you should be able to use, and we probably make that product.
Exactly. Let's see. Eric here just bought a new Nighthawk AX8 8-stream router, the RAX80, because his old Nighthawk wasn't putting down the download and the upload. Wasn't putting out the download and the upload.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did the speed test, it was putting a little bit more than my old router. Oh, okay. It's a double question here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh no, I lost it. Okay, here we go. So it's doing better than his old router, but when using the Nighthawk app, it was saying I was getting 473 megabits down and 23 megabits up. How accurate is that app when doing a speed test? I'd say it's pretty accurate. That should be what you're
Yeah, the
getting,
only
more
thing
or
you
less.
want the one thing you want to make sure of is that you're not running anything else that's accessing the internet at the time that you're running that speed test to find out what your actual maximum is. Because all it's going to do is be able to tell you what is currently available. So if you had 3 other people that were streaming videos off of Netflix at the same time you run the speed test, the resultant number you're going to get is going to be much lower because there's less of the band left because other things are using up part of it. So just make
Right.
sure when you run the test, everything else isn't actually accessing the internet, and that'll give you the optimal numbers.
Right. If you got people downloading, 4K content, that's going to chew it up real fast.
Yep. Or using BitTorrent, and then you're going to get almost zero. Not that
Okay.
any of us use BitTorrent.
Right.
Disclaimers.
I thought it was funny. We released a Orbi product selector, kind of like you answer some questions and it suggests an Orbi system for you. And one of them was, do you torrent files? And I was thinking to myself, that's an interesting question.
Hey, there's completely legal torrents out there.
That's true. Okay. We have a follow-up from Jordan here, who had a question about the photos getting cut off. He says that part of the photo can only be seen. So it seems like the files themselves are literally getting chopped.
That is strange. I've never actually seen that happen. Usually if that happens, then it means that the file gets corrupted. But if he can still open the files and he's only seeing half of it, I've not seen that before. Anyone else have any ideas?
I have no idea. Gosh, maybe replace the cable. Yeah, I really
Yeah,
don't know.
there's something strange happening there.
There's something weird going on there. I would we could look into that a little bit more, but maybe check the knowledge base, kb.netgear.com, and see if anybody else has had that same issue. I've never heard of that personally either, and I do a lot of photo transferring for work. I do a lot of the photography at Netgear, and I've never had that happen. So yeah, sorry, we can't help you out anymore there.
I'd suggest going to the ReadyNAS community board. Tons of people are really well knowledged on ReadyNAS issues there, and also our moderators could maybe give you a better idea that work with ReadyNAS more often than we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, one thing you can do to kind of narrow things down a little bit is look at the file size of the file on your phone and look at the file size once it's on the ReadyNAS and see if they're right around the same size.
Mm-hmm.
If it's being cut in half and you notice the file is actually half the size, then you know it literally is just stopping the transmission. If it's somewhere around the same size, but half the photo is blank, then that probably means that some corruption happened when the file was being transferred at that point, and whatever media player you're using to read the videos is stopping at the point where the corruption happens. it at least gives you one step towards the troubleshooting. And going out to the ReadyNAS boards, community boards, would be a great place, once you have the information.
All right. We have our #1 fan back, Adalberto. Welcome back to the stream. I hope
All right.
he says he hopes we're all doing well. Well, we hope you're doing well.
Yep.
Keep on keeping on.
and thanks for asking. Thanks
for asking. It's always nice to have the chat here to chat with us and ask us how we're
and
doing.
A couple more comments about Michael. Thanks again from Surfing the Tube. Michael knows his stuff. Thanks again. M-Dog says, I'm scared to ask what router Michael uses.
Hey, he asked the wrong question. It's what routers do I use? Currently, I have 3 routers running in my home. I've got the R9000, the XR500, and the Orbi.
So he's got...
How many SSIDs do you have?
Oh, a few.
Are you Brendan level 9?
No,
are
not
9 or above?
No, because I don't have the guest networks turned on. So I'm looking at, let's see, for the Orbi's 1, 2 more. So I've got 5 right now.
Wow.
Just a casual 5.
Hey, sometimes you just got to branch out.
There you go.
Speaking of Brendan, it says the hack I use for auto reboot is to plug a plug timer into the power lead and use it to turn it off and on in the middle of the night. Not a good way to reboot, I think, though. Well, we just suggested it.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not a bad way to reboot. It's not like rebooting your computer. The router doesn't cache things in memory and then write to disk. Everything on the firmware is static. So when you power that thing off, you power it back on again. It's not going to affect any of the data because there is no caching going on. And that's the only reason why you care about pulling the plug on your computer, is that it's actually cached stuff in memory and didn't have a chance to write it to disk before you killed it.
Yep.
Gotcha. Makes sense. A question from Samir. Would Duma OS be coming to the R7800? I'd be willing to pay for it. It is not.
How much is he willing to pay?
If you're willing to pay about $250, I would suggest the XR500.
500. There you go.
Yeah. Fortunately, we can't be just putting it on random routers. We only have it available on the XR routers. So
yeah, only on the XR routers and the XRM systems. So if you wanted to get the XRM 570, which is the XR500 and an extender, the X7000.
Okay, a question from Mick. Got the XR300 today and have spent the past 6 hours trying to connect the network into my computer, and he is going crazy. What I ran into when I first started working at NETGEAR and I got my XR500 is you have to go through the setup. You can connect to it, but you won't get on the network until you actually run through the setup of the router. So what I would do is on your phone, download the Nighthawk app. Every XR router is compatible with the Nighthawk app, and then connect to the network on that it's broadcasting, and then open the Nighthawk app. You're not going to be connected to the internet until you set it up. So you can actually run the setup process on the Nighthawk app. And if you're connected to the router via your phone, it'll automatically detect, that you have the XR300, that it's not set up. It'll prompt you to set it up. So I would suggest doing that. And then once you have it set up, you can connect to it via your computer and go onto the internet, no problem. So give that a shot.
Yeah, I would give that a shot, Darren. Also, wiring your computer directly to the router, and then doing the setup through routerlogin.net. But you just can't plug it in and then have it go. You're going to have to do some setup. I don't know where you are in that process. But if you can give us a little bit more information, hopefully we can get you a little bit more of an answer. But be quick, because we're about a half hour away from our time today. So so definitely give us a little bit more info. We'd love to help you.
Cool. All right, we're almost caught up. Okay.
Right.
Kind of a comment question from Kumar for you, Michael. Though there is no firmware upgrade wirelessly, um, I'm not sure I'm understanding this question here. Um, do you see the question I'm looking at, Michael?
Yeah, I see the question, and it looks like what he's saying is that he's got a problem with his router, and even though there's no cables actually plugged into any of the LAN ports, he's seen the LEDs just constantly flashing real fast, and the power light is off.
Gotcha.
That's not good. That does sound like there is a problem with the router. If he's tried resetting it and power cycling it, and that wasn't able to cure it, and he can't log in, then the firmware itself on the router is probably corrupted. Just want to make sure that when he says reset, that he's actually trying to do a factory reset on it and not just doing the reset power cycle. That would be the one thing that I recommend is try doing a factory reset on it. If this continues, then that means that the firmware definitely has gotten corrupted to the point where, it's basically broken. And I would recommend contacting support on that to get some additional help and possibly an RMA replacement.
Gotcha. Okay. Joseph has an R8, I'm assuming 8000, that shuts down randomly. Why, and how do I prevent this from happening? Random shutdowns are a safety feature for overheating. I'd say that's probably the reason why. I would not put it in a corner in a closet. Try to keep it somewhere open air, where it's going to be getting, not necessarily a breeze, but just, so that when it's heating up, it can, let the hot air rise and kind of dissipate a little bit. Putting it in a cabinet is going to make it overheat. So I would try that and see if that's working for you. Something that I did when I first moved to this apartment that I'm living in now is I plugged it into a outlet that was power switch controlled. So make sure it's not, you're not accidentally like switching a power switch and killing the router. That's another possibility, but that likely isn't the answer, but it might be. Any other suggestions?
No, that's actually probably the best first thing to look at. A lot of people don't think about the fact that routers actually need a lot of ventilation. And when they do get too hot, they will overheat and then turn themselves off. Another thing you can try is try reflashing the firmware, even if you're up to the latest firmware. Manually download the firmware off of our support site and then try reflashing it in case there isn't something wrong with the firmware that's on there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have another question from Payne, who got the XR300 recently.
Yeah, he's in Tennessee. The geofilter is showing the server in California. Don't know how to change the server. Okay, so one, it depends on what game you're playing and what server you're trying to connect to. And also on the geofilter, do you have the geofilter set to like the entire continent? Do you have it just set to within 300 miles? You just have to, is that geofilter, what's the aperture that you have it set as far as miles? Sometimes with some games, you will have to connect to like their lobby server, which is in a particular geolocation, and that's just unfortunately the way it is. But you're in Tennessee. If you're playing, like, for example, like Fortnite, your servers should be in Ohio and Virginia. As far as what you can see, there's also Oregon and California for Fortnite as far as on North America. So it's really like it's dependent on what game and how you have that setting. I think that's about all the farther I can go on that.
Ben, wouldn't it also be dependent if they're teaming up with someone that might be on the West Coast? It would default them to that server if they're with someone else.
Let's say that I'm in Tennessee and you're in California, Darren, and I connect to your party. Let's say in Warzone, so I'm in your group. You're the party leader. You're going to be connecting to the game. It's going to be based off of where you are. if you had connected to me, then it would be based off of where I was in Tennessee. So, yeah, that's a big part of it as well.
Okay. Question from Brendan. Without using QoS, can I tell the R8000 to prioritize certain devices over others, i.e. prioritize a laptop over a smart plug, or prioritize an Android phone over Alexa? Or can it only be done using QoS settings? I believe it can only be done using QoS settings. So
Right. That's basically the question is almost the definition of QoS, being able to prioritize one device over the other.
Cool.
Yeah.
A question from Angel: are there any 8-port NETGEAR routers? No, the highest one we have is
No.
6.
Yep. And part of that is because if you think about how big even our 6-port router is, which is huge, if you tried putting 8 ports in there, you'd be adding another 2 inches at least on the width of it, not including cost or anything else. So anytime you need more ports, the best thing to do is just buy a switch and plug in. Then you can have as many ports as you need.
Yeah, and there's great switches like the, S8000, which is like what, $79.
Yep.
And it gives you, that has 8 ports on it. It's a fantastic switch.
Mm-hmm. That's the one that I have. I really like it. All right, question from NB. Should I get the CM1200 or the CM1100? And which Wi-Fi 6 router would work best with that? We talked to a viewer above about picking a modem that suits your speeds. What's nice is that on our website, if you go to the modem section, you can actually see on the side there, you can select, different speeds. And what you should do is pick the speed that you're actually paying for and see what modem will pair best with that speed. And then, to the next part of your question, which Wi-Fi 6 router will work best with that? That's kind of a hard question to answer. The Wi-Fi 6 routers, obviously are going to give you that higher capacity, which is going to benefit you in any case, but it really depends on your home. Do you need to be getting the top end RAX 200? Do you need that much coverage and that much, capacity from your hardware? There's a lot more questions to ask to kind of really give a solid answer. Yeah, I don't really know what else to add to that.
Probably, well, also, with the CM11, 1200 and 1100, the question would be, multi-gig. If his ISP doesn't have doesn't support multi-gig, then he's just going to be going with the CM1100. And then pretty much any of the Wi-Fi 6 routers we have are going to work very well with that. Mm-hmm. And it just comes down to which one does he want to get, how much money does he want to spend on the Wi-Fi 6.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Okay, question from MDog. Is router login the same as going through IP? Yeah, it'll kind of reroute you to the same thing. Just a more nice way to get there.
It's the same way as if you go to google.com. That's actually getting translated over into an IP address. And that's the same thing that routerlogin.net does, is that actually gets translated over into the IP address of the router.
Right, and it's a lot easier to remember router login than it is to remember 110.72.58.
Yep.
So it's just it's a way for us to just make it easier for you to get in and log in.
Okay, follow up from Mick, who had the XR300 that he's having a hard time setting up. He's been using router login and getting stuck at checking updates and had to shut it off after it had been checking for 1 hour, going nowhere. Had factory reset it more than once. It's going through a cable. So he's hardwired to his computer using router login. I would suggest, if you haven't tried it, I would try using the Nighthawk app. When I first started at NETGEAR, I updated 10 XR300s to send out to influencers. We wanted to have them updated to the newest firmware. and I did it all via the Nighthawk app. And I did run into some problems using the routerlogin.net to do that. So I would suggest downloading the app and trying to do it wirelessly via your phone. Let us know if that works, though.
Yeah, I agree.
So, question from Brendan: is there a reason routers don't have a built-in fan as a standard? He's thinking that it
That's an
might
easy
be.
answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
The answer to that is noise. The biggest problem that we've seen from people is anytime you put a fan in a device, someone's going to complain about the noise coming from the fan. And most of the time, your router is sitting out someplace. If you've got it in your living room, it's sitting next to you in your office, anything like that. And the routers don't generate enough heat most of the time to require a fan. So putting heat sinks on it works better. And then it's silent as opposed to making a lot of noise, because even the smallest fan, some people can hear.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Question from Adalberto here. Can I attach an encrypted APFS hard drive onto my Nighthawk using the ReadyShare feature to view files on my devices on my network? Or do I have to have it formatted as a exFAT to be viewable? APFS is Apple's file system encryption. I would err on the side of caution and do I would do like FAT32. What's the other one that you suggested?
NTFS FAT32 exFAT is also fine. I'd have to look, but I believe there's a KB article that tells you what formats ReadyShare supports, but the Apple format is highly unlikely to be on that list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would err on FAT32 just because it's simple.
I would too.
Okay, cool. I play Fortnite. This is from Payne again. I play Fortnite, and how do I connect to East servers in the GeoFilter? Ben, you want to help him out?
So in the GeoFilter, you'll see that it'll have where you're located. What you'll want to do is to narrow the aperture, so it'll say how large, in miles or kilometers, if you really want to be exotic. But you can bring it down. I have mine. So I have a couple people whitelisted that I play with that are outside my zone, but I have mine, I think, set at about 300 miles. Darren, you agree on that?
Yeah. Also, you might want to check inside of Fortnite itself. You can set the region. Make sure your region's set correctly, or it will put you somewhere else that you don't want to play.
Yeah, and there should be two regions you should be considered east. Sometimes people in Texas have this problem as well. I know you're in Tennessee, but you should be considered on the East Coast servers, and those East Coast servers are Ohio and Virginia. For you, it's probably faster to connect to Ohio. So I would just make sure that aperture that you have just includes you and the distance it gets to Western Ohio.
Cool.
That should help.
Okay. Another question from Kumar here. How can he enable Wake on wireless LAN and LAN?
Normally, the Wake on LAN feature is set on the client device, and the router doesn't have anything to do with that. I'm not sure whether the wireless would have any effect on that, but I know on wired devices, you're always setting Wake on LAN on the client device, not the router. All the router's doing is acting as a traffic cop to send signals. So for instance, if I have a printer that has gone to sleep and I'm using my laptop to try to connect to it, the laptop will try to talk to the printer, then the printer is going to see that a signal came in and say, okay, it's now time to wake up. So the router really doesn't have anything to do with that except being the traffic cop passing the signals back and forth.
Gotcha. Okay. Question from Brendan. Do Zigbee radio waves interfere with standard Wi-Fi radio signals such as 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, or are they too far apart in the radio spectrum to overlap and cause interference between them? That's a physics question.
This sounds like a Michael question. This sounds like a Michael question.
Yeah, I'm not sure what radio frequencies the ZV is actually using. If they're within the 2.4 or 5 gigahertz spectrums, most likely they'd be 2.4. There could be some interference with them. But
2.4.
Yeah, then there could be some, but usually they all have to follow the IEEE standard for the 2.4 gigahertz frequencies, which means that they're supposed to play nicely together. It is possible you could get some interference, but normally you shouldn't have to worry about that. I do know that some of our routers have problems with wireless mice that are using the 2.4 gigahertz frequency. But I think that's more on the wireless mouse side than it is on our router side. The mice are very strict on what they're using, and sometimes there is some conflict. I do know we have had quite a few people using ZV devices with our network products, and I haven't heard any complaints with them.
Yeah, it looks like it's using 802.15.4.
Okay. Yeah, then I don't think you should have a problem with it, but haven't tried it, so I couldn't guarantee it.
Gotcha. Sounds like it might just kind of be on a case-by-case basis sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
and M-Dog's right. Small fans can sound like jet engines. Listen to any one of our rack mount switches with those micro fans in them, and it sounds like a jet engine taking off.
I bet. All right. Well, it only took us an hour and 45 minutes, but we caught up.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I did have Angelo send over some questions. We'll probably only have time to answer a couple, but let's see here. Let me pick my favorite one here. Okay. This one's very idealistic. You just won the lottery. What is the first thing you upgrade to your gaming setup? And what do you get? What's the first thing you're gonna upgrade? I'll let Ben start. What would you upgrade, Ben?
Oh, I just won the lottery. What would I upgrade?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very simply, my desk chair
Me too.
ergonomics. I would just create a comfortable space with like a nice desk where I've got a great chair. I can mount my Yeti. I can have my webcam. Just kind of like how do I control the space? I think that would be the number one thing. And then the second thing is those really, really cool monitors that Angelo has.
Yeah, I have one of those curved ones and I like it a lot. I really want to get one of those chairs that like you can pull the like lever on the side and then like go all the way back. And then I heard there's this thing that you can buy called a foot hammock and you can hang it like where your feet are. And so like if you have the chair and you lean back, then you can get the foot hammock and you're just basically like in bed watching like Netflix on your computer. It's great. You don't have to move.
That sounds like the best $14.99 that money could spend.
Yeah.
And where did you see said foot hammock? Was it on like Discovery Channel at like 3 in the morning? Because that's what it sounds, like it's one of those products. The foot hammock.
I've seen on TV.
It was on like some like tech YouTubers like must-haves list. Like you have to get a foot hammock. They're really comfortable.
Oh,
what would you guys get, Darren and Michael?
Well, I know one of the first things I do is upgrade my video card to the highest end NVIDIA card that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing would buy 2 more monitors and a quad monitor bar so I could have 4 monitors instead of the 2 in front of me. And then building a whole nother PC.
Just cause. You won the lottery.
Just cause. Absolutely.
What about you, Darren?
I've been actually planning this out of just building a whole new desk setup to support everything I have. I've kind of just added to it over the years, and it's kind of not getting low on space.
Mhm.
Keep adding more and more to it. So probably gonna go down the route of piecing together all my own desks from IKEA to get perfectly what I want for my space.
I got one of the like IKEA like kitchen countertop desks, that like classic one that you see on Reddit of people getting the like kitchen countertop and putting it on top of the two drawers. And so it's like it's literally like it's like taller than me. It's very long, which is awesome. Um, well, we got some final questions here to wrap up the second hour.
Yeah.
Payne FN, who was asking about Fortnite and the XR300, says that in the geofilter, the center of the circle is in California, and he needs to move it to Tennessee so he can make the server a smaller distance. I'm not even aware that that could happen. Mine automatically defaulted to California. Can you move it?
My
Is Payne in Tennessee?
Yeah,
he
he
is in
says he's in
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Yeah,
Then it sounds like the router doesn't recognize his location.
Yeah, what it sounds like. Are you using a VPN?
that could be it.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, then
It
it's gonna
sounds like
wherever
there's
the
a
VPN
proxy
server
here.
is located.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could possibly think of as a VPN. I don't know why else it wouldn't detect your location.
Yeah, because the router should detect that you're in Tennessee, and if it's detecting that you're in California, I would strongly suspect that there's some sort of proxy that's happening there.
Interesting. Okay, well, try that out. M Dog says he'd buy if he won the lottery, he'd buy a Michael for all my tech problems.
Well, thank you, Dog. I appreciate that.
Why would you do that? You can just come to our tech support live every Friday from 12 to 2 o'clock.
Every Friday.
All right.
Not using a VPN. That is a puzzler because it should be detecting. You know what? I would try running a speed test from your phone and seeing where your phone detects you,
mhm. Yeah. Also,
or
Yeah,
from your
actually,
computer.
that speed test you were saying, try it two different ways. Do it through the cellular on the phone and see where it detects you're at, and then turn the cellular off and click only through the Wi-Fi in your home router, and then test and see if it goes to the same places or two different ones, and that'll tell you if the router's thinking it's in the wrong location.
Yeah, and I think that this is kind of a larger issue. Payne, if you Angela, can you get can we DM Payne and get his Payne's information, and we could reach out to Doom OS and see if we can get a more detailed answer on how to troubleshoot it, because it's a really strange issue. There's got to be something there.
yeah, something that I've run into in the past when I used to live at home with my parents is my mom would use a VPN for work, and I didn't really even know that she was using one. Um, so maybe somebody at home is working from home and using a VPN that you're not aware of. That's definitely
Yeah.
a possibility as well. I mean, maybe you're not personally using one, but a VPN is going to actually affect your whole network, not just the single device. So if you're
Yeah.
using a VPN, if you have somebody working from home, it's going to affect the whole network, which would impact your XR300. So, um, yeah. And then Payne, I'm actually going to have, one second. I'm going to have Angelo put the email to contact us, to contact our support through, and then we can get some information from you and see if we can relay it to the Doom OS team and get a better answer.
Yep.
We can't do DMs on YouTube, so we'll give him the email and he can email us.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Angela already got you.
There you go. And
Excellent.
email us, tag it, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Remember, this is Friday, and our Duma team is in the UK, so it's already evening time for them. But we'll try to get you an answer as quickly as we can.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Adalberto had some knowledge about the Wake on WAN/LAN,
Yes.
and he says that it is used on the Microsoft System Configuration Manager.
Yes. Yeah, if you're
Cool.
trying to set the wake on LAN on your computer as opposed to, another device, as I mentioned, on the client device, yeah, you can actually go into the System Configuration Manager and turn the wake on LAN on the PC. But that's for that one client device. But for other devices that are connected to your network, each one of them has to have the wake on LAN feature to be able to be woken up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
but M-Dog just confirmed that it's 10 p.m. for them. So, little past business hours for our UK team.
All right. We're down to the last about 6 minutes here. So you guys, if you want to ask your last minute questions, we'll answer them. But in the meantime, I've got another question for you guys. The zombie apocalypse has just begun, and you have 10 minutes to figure out where to go before they storm your house. Where do you go first?
I'm going to the Winchester and just going to wait for it all to blow over.
Excellent.
I always told myself that I would set up shop in a hotel, like a big hotel, because there's so many rooms, they couldn't find me easily. And there's a kitchen and like a gym and a pool and a spa. I'm in heaven.
You've never played any of those zombie apocalypse games, have you? You go into a hotel, there are zombies in every room. And try
Really?
clearing a hotel out. It takes a long time.
But
and there's multiple entrances.
In fact, just yesterday I was playing a game and we were clearing out the zombies out of a hospital, and there was a lot of them.
I would steal the biggest yacht I could find and go sit out on the ocean.
That's smart. Yep. That's smart.
So I'll give you my actual answer. So I live in Alameda. If you may be aware but the Wasp aircraft carrier is parked here. I think it's the Wasp or the Hornet, one of them that picked up the astronauts. I've always thought that the aircraft carrier is the best thing to go because you have to only get on the ship with a gangplank, and you could pull that up or knock it down. So that way zombies cannot get onto the ship. And it's a ship, so it's got a lot of space. You got power. It's independently powered. Yeah. So it's an aircraft carrier, and now you can use the flight deck for growing food. Because I have played a lot of zombie apocalypse survival games.
And I'd head down to the Santa Cruz Harbor and pick the boat I wanted. It's
just
right downhill, so it's nice and easy.
Yeah, I mean, in the scenario of a zombie apocalypse, I think there'd be some anarchy. So I bet you could just steal a boat. Nobody's gonna stop you. Just go grab a boat.
But you want to make sure you get out of the harbor quickly, because otherwise there's going to be such congestion, it's going to take you hours.
There you go.
And also don't go to the island that everybody else is going to.
Right.
I don't know, spoiler alert for those that saw Dawn of the Dead, but I just ruined the end of that for you. So Payne just sent an email. Fantastic. So we'll get back to you. Is there a way Nico has a question. Is there a way to change the traffic meter set in gigabits to be set in gigabits, not bytes? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to set it so it doesn't go over my data cap. I have a data cap of 1024 gigabits per month. You must have one of the sinister American ISPs. I'm not going to mention any names: Spectrum, Comcast, Warner. But yes. So is there a way to set that traffic meter so the conversion? I don't know, but that's actually a really interesting feature. With the fact that a lot of these companies now have the data caps, and I know it's really quick to jump over those data caps, especially if you're watching a lot of Netflix. But I know that most have suspended it for the time being. I know that Comcast has suspended that, and I think Spectrum has during the pandemic. But that's something that's an interesting feature that we could definitely suggest to the product managers.
Yeah, that's actually been a common complaint on just about every interface that scales for traffic, is that it only goes in megabytes instead of gigabytes. So you have to put in 100,000 to say a terabyte.
Right.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
But as long as you don't go over 100,000 megabytes, you should be safe.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
And depending on whether the router will allow you to put 100,000 in there.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, in the
Big
worst case, you just multiply it by 1,000. But yeah, it would be nice to have that unit in there just to make it simple. All right. Well, we have about a minute left here. I don't really know what to do with this last minute. We've got one more question from Angelo. You're stuck on a deserted island and you can only bring one thing. This is a flash question. You got to answer it quick. What do you bring? I would bring a Nighthawk M1 mobile router.
Yeah, but you don't have anything else to connect to.
Right. Nothing works.
Okay,
Nothing works.
but if we form a society on the deserted island, assuming other people maybe, find themselves deserted there, I'd be
And
the
someone
king.
brought you your internet wiring and connections? Oh.
I think I could be the king, I'd have like the biggest pole in the island. I'd have all the
I would
power.
bring a Cat 6 cable, and I would actually be the king because nobody could connect without the Cat 6 cable.
Okay.
I'd bring the one semi truck that had everything in it.
So if I could bring one thing to a desert island, I would bring a boat.
That's so smart. Why don't people just say that automatically? That's the
And for
answer.
Nico's comment there, he can only put 99,999. Well, if he's worried about going over his terabyte data cap, 99,999 should be good enough. You're so close to that terabyte cap.
Cool. All right. Well, we caught up on all the questions. We're at the end of our 2 hours here. So I'd just like to thank all the viewers again for making this one of our best streams so far. Thank you for tuning in. We hope we were able to answer some of your questions. If we gave you a suggestion and you need to follow up with us in a week or so or 2 weeks, we do this every Friday at 12 to 2 p.m. That's going to be Pacific time. And yeah, you can tune in, ask us questions as you need. We'll be here. We always bring on, 4 experts for you guys. So that's about all I've got to say. If you guys are good as well, we'll be signing off.
Just everybody have a great weekend. If you can, get in some gaming, get in some relaxation, watch a movie, spend some time with your, family and friends. And because that's what we're doing, it's all about trying to keep connected, and thank you guys so much for your questions. I talked so much today, I lost my voice earlier today, so so that's a great sign. So always thank you. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Thanks a lot, and see everyone next week.
All right, take care, everyone.